Hi, Analisa Six here with the Lady of Leisure and the Sober Curator to give you the 2023 April horoscope for the zodiac sign of Cancer for Sun and Rising placements. I just heard a really interesting bird sound that felt like it was coming from inside my house, and I think it might have just been my beverage making a weird noise. Hi, Cancer. How are you? It sounds like you have a lot going on from the lens of astrology in terms of your personal chart potentially. So we're going to get right into it. We start April out um, with a lot of Aries energy still. We're in Aries season. It's spring. We're finally out of winter. I'm actually recording this on April 8th, the day before Easter. So we're already pretty into April. And if you're watching this, it's going to be way past this, probably either today or after today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the first week of April. We're already past that, but just kind of what some of the energy frequencies were, because I'm behind on getting these videos out for everybody. And then we'll get into what the rest of the month looks like for you. So I actually realized that I didn't get this chart. I just went right for it today. I didn't even prep my chart all the way, but that's okay. It only takes me a second to get Cancer up here. So we start out every April in Aries season, and we had some planets in Aries at the beginning of the month, and some of them have shifted. Some of them are still there. Mercury was in Aries when we started out April, and then we had Jupiter and Vesta and Chiron. And so out of that group, the only planets that are still in Aries are Vesta, Jupiter, the Sun, and Chiron as of today. But by now, Mercury has actually already made its way into Taurus, which happened on the 4th. And so Mercury is now in Taurus. And we also have Venus in the sign of Taurus. And then later on in the month, we'll have the Sun enter Taurus, and we'll be in Taurus season. But as of right now, we're still in Aries season, and we still have, we're still going to have kind of this like influence of Aries throughout April with Jupiter, Chiron, Vesta, and obviously the first half of April being Aries season. So there's still quite a lot going on in the sign of Aries. And the area that's hitting for you, Cancer, has been your career. So your work and your career has been a huge focus for you in the last few weeks, even in March. And April, it's no different. You have a lot of energy, vitality, creativity, growth and expansion highlighted around that. Also, you might be given more responsibilities as a result. Responsibilities aren't necessarily the flare of what's happening in your chart, but what is happening is growth and expansion. And sometimes, depending on what our jobs are, growth and expansion requires us to step into more leadership positions within the work that we're doing. And sometimes that can feel uncomfortable, right? There also can be, with Chiron playing like a little bit of an influence here, for it's been there for a while, for a few years for the Cancer horoscope. So it's not necessarily a new energy that's influencing you, but it's just working on building confidence around being maybe more of a leader within the work that you're doing. And so, with Jupiter passing through here for all of April, there is kind of this like need to level up or expand or grow in your career, and the Sun's there to help bring vitality and energy to that. And then Mercury, having been in Aries for the end of March and the first couple days of April, enhances your ability to delegate and communicate effectively, directly in Aries. Sometimes Mercury in Aries can be too harsh, and it can be a little bit too direct or too intense. And so you might have had to learn tact in the last few weeks of March and the first week of April. Now that Mercury is in Taurus, Mercury is going to be in Taurus for the rest of April, and it's going to be in Taurus in May, and it's going to be in Taurus at the beginning of June, because we have a Mercury retrograde in Taurus happening in April that I believe begins on the 20th. 21st. And so we'll enter Taurus season, and then right afterwards, Mercury is going to station retrograde, and it's going to be retrograde in Taurus until the 15th. And so the area that this is hitting for the Cancer individual is the area of the chart that has to do with our social circles. So right now we already have Mercury, the North Node, Juno, Uranus, and Venus all in Taurus as of today. And so there's a need and a desire to network and connect with your social circles or groups of people that bring you joy, pleasure, excitement, fun. Connecting through food or physical activities in the sign of Taurus is likely highlighted. And Venus, is really at home in Taurus. Venus is one of the rulers of Taurus, or is the ruler of Taurus. Venus also rules Libra. And so when we have a lot of this Venusian energy that's enhanced, especially in an area like our social circles or friendship groups, it's a really great time to connect with people that bring us joy. And so if you've been feeling kind of an enhancement of that energy, whether you wanted it or not, that's why it's been highlighted. Venus is actually going to move out of Taurus and into Gemini in the middle of April. So April 11th. So that's in a few days. And then we're going to have Venus in the sign of Gemini for the rest of the month. And the area that this is hitting for Cancer is an area that has to do with the subconscious. And it's a really good time to work on any kind of, so Gemini rules the mind, right? Gemini is the mutable air sign that rules the third house of communication and has a lot to do with the way that we're ingesting information, outputting information, and the way that we're analyzing information. And so if you're in a position where you're more prone to overthinking or anxiety, or you feel kind of this amplification of mental energy, Venus is enhancing that for all of us during that time in the sign of Gemini, but it's specifically happening for the sign of Cancer in the area that rules the subconscious and our dream world, our creative world, and how we're kind of related to spirituality when we're being creative. I don't know. I mean, I always make kind of like some assumptions for people watching these videos that you have a spiritual practice of some kind if you're watching your horoscope. And so I kind of talk like most people would probably know that creativity kind of starts in the spiritual world, but I understand not everybody either shares in that idea or ideology, or maybe knows that that's an ideology. And so it's said, that everything that we create that comes into our minds is connected to, consciousness, like all consciousness. And it's not necessarily ours. Like our art or our ideas are not necessarily ours. It's like information that we're channeling coming out of the cosmos. We all have those capabilities. It's like radio signals, radio waves. And we're either conscious of it or we're not. It's kind of like when people talk about editing your mental diet with what you're absorbing on social media all the time, or you'll see the algorithm sending things to you that you've clicked on or that you've thought about, and it's super trippy and all that kind of stuff. It's similar in the sense that whatever we surround ourselves with, whatever energy we're surrounding ourselves with, or visuals we're surrounding ourselves with, whether we're aware that we're ingesting it consciously or not, it's impacting our subconscious in some way, therefore impacting our nervous system, therefore playing a role on our ideas, our perspectives, how we view the world, and then also probably what we decide to create in the world. And so with Venus and Gemini passing through the subconscious, you have this opportunity to really pull on your connection to that energy and utilize it for your benefit. Venus is a beneficial energy. And if there's healing that you need to do around your mental diet, or, editing your mental diet in a way that your subconscious is maybe absorbing too much negativity on social media or in the world, or you've got a friend that their life is too chaotic for you and they always want you to be there and ingesting their drama, and you're just like, I need a break from this. I need to edit my mental diet and kind of focus more on healing my subconscious or having a healthy relationship to my subconscious. That's really supported for Cancer in the month of April with Venus and Gemini after the 11th. So if you've been feeling inclined to want to try out some different ways to kind of clear energy out and meditate, and then call more creative energy in and utilize that in a way that makes you feel really grounded and more comfortable in the way that you think about things, that's really positive. I would recommend Joe Dispenza, Becoming Supernatural, those types of books that he writes, as a really good intro to how to utilize your thoughts and create more constructive habits or more constructive ways of starting your day mentally. I really like a lot of the Joe Dispenza stuff. My mom got me turned on to Joe Dispenza a long time ago. So it can be a really fun way to kind of see how your thoughts influence the way that you feel and your subconscious and your dreams, things like that. Dream journaling might be really fun too during this time. You might feel like you remember your dreams better, or there's some kind of enhancement of energy in that realm of things for you. So that should be a positive thing to focus on. And of course, like this being on the sober curator and me being sober and this kind of being more of like a sober theme a little bit. This house also is the house like where Venus is passing through in the horoscope, is the chart that rules your connection to substances, but not just substances in the sense of the substance itself, like alcohol, but also the experience or the feeling that we want when we use those substances. So it's almost like the need for escapism from mundane reality. And so the imagination gets highlighted when Venus is passing through this area, and the need to connect to the bigger consciousness, right? Whether that's God or source energy or whatever the cosmos is to you, the need to feel into that and connect to it is really important. And so, you know, meditation is hit or miss for a lot of people, but it's actually a really positive thing for Cancers to do, you know, guided meditation around your emotional realm and kind of how you process your emotions, because Cancer is such a nurturing, feeling centered sign that and also meditation and water. So if you take a bath and you meditate in the bath, or you take a shower and you do meditation or mindful kind of techniques when you're in water, that's also really positive for water dominant people to practice their meditation. Water is also a conduit for spiritual energy. It's also a conduit for manifestation. The wishing well, there's a card in the tarot that is called the Nine of Cups, that is called the wishing card, that's ruled by Venus and Pisces. And it's the card that is said that if you get it, your ability to manifest and call in the things that you want to call in it's highlighted, it's more likely. So there's kind of this like, you know, really set clear intentions on what you want to manifest or call into your life, because you're likely to be really powerful and able to call it in during this time. But it's also a double-edged sword. Be careful what you wish for, because if you get something you're not ready for or comes with more responsibilities than what you were hoping, you might regret not having a more clear intention and getting more than what you had anticipated. That's usually my problem. I'm a very powerful manifester in my life. I can't find this card right now. I tend to get what I want pretty easily. And I'm, you know, always kind of that person that has to work more on being okay with what I have and not seeking just kind of a quick dopamine hit, right? So there's also kind of that side of things. But if you're at a stage in your life where there are things that you want to call in, this Venus in Gemini passing through this area of the chart for you does have kind of that wishing card energy to it, you know, kind of this is the place that you go to imagine and envision the dream before you get the opportunity to call it into reality, which is more of a Taurus energy. This is the Nine of Cups in the Rider-Waite deck. The wishing card. It's not as exciting as the Mother Peace image. The Mother Peace image of the wishing card I like a lot better. There's all these people bathing in this magical outdoor kind of bath lake situation. I think it's supposed to be in New Mexico. But yeah, it's a really powerful, good time for kind of setting intentions in that way. The other thing that's happening that's really big for the Cancer individual is Mars moved into your sign last month, and it's in Cancer now, and it's going to be in Cancer until until May. So we have Mars in Cancer in April, going from 3 to 18 degrees throughout the month of April. And you know, so Mars is the planet, or yes, the planet. I get my thoughts get ahead of my words. So by the time I'm saying something, I'm already kind of onto the next thing. And then I have to backtrack and be like, you're not done saying that yet. So Mars is the planet that rules the will. It's actually the ruler of Aries and Scorpio. And in Cancer, it's not in its strong sign. It's actually in its fall. And so it's exalted in Capricorn, and Cancer is the opposite of Capricorn. And so when Mars is in Cancer, it's in its fall. It's not a super comfortable placement, because Cancer is more introverted, nurturing, more active when it comes to things that revolve around self-care and comfort, not necessarily big out in the world things, more like the hearth, the home. And, you know, it's extroverted in the hearth and the home and in things that have to do with those themes like nurturing and caring for others. Cancers are very active and outward about, but Mars, you know, is expressed in a more fiery way where it's a lot more assertive and a lot more outgoing and extroverted as a planet. And so in Cancer, it's kind of like this weird little mix, you know, of things. And there's a couple things that happen with Mars in Cancer where it can make us more sensitive to other people. Like if people say something, it's easier for us to take it personally and then have an emotional reaction. We're more likely to be emotionally reactive when Mars is passing through a sign like Cancer. And that's not necessarily always a bad thing if it's something that we know we need to do. Like if we're like, I have been holding this in and I need to have a talk with this person and be vulnerable and be open about how this is making me feel. And maybe I need to be a little bit more direct and assertive about my feelings. This energy helps that, but it also has the potential to go south very quick. Like there can be a lot of things that get said that, you know, you're not meaning to say. Luckily, you know, with Venus in Gemini wants there to be harmonious communication, wants there to be resolution. And Mercury in Taurus can kind of simplify and do those things in a more practical way. And so there's some energy that's helping to kind of try to resolve things and smooth things over, but it's still a very emotionally driven time that can feel like a lot. It's also passing through the area of the Cancer horoscope that has to do with identity and self. And so you might be feeling really needy in what you feel like you need to kind of restore in yourself. If, you know, you've had such a socially extroverted time with all this Aries energy passing through the career part of your chart where it's like career, work. And then you've got social. And now with Mars passing through the area of Cancer in the self, you're probably like, I need to take care of myself. I need this, I need that. And I'm getting reactive about not having it. Like the cup is not running over and I need more put back in here. So this is a really important time for you to kind of work on, you know, work-life balance and putting more back in self-care wise. Otherwise, you're going to start taking it out on other people or getting more reactive and not really meaning to. Mars and Saturn are actually making a trine right now. It was more exact at the beginning of the month, and now it's actually kind of it's further apart. It's not as close anymore. But if you were feeling a lot of emotional energy that felt kind of stuck for the first week of April, or if you were just kind of feeling like tense in your emotions, that might be why. It's a very like hard time if we have a lot of output and we're not getting to do the self-care. But if we're getting to do the self-care, if we're prioritizing the self-care, it's a positive time for that. It's a positive time for structured self-care. Saturn wants us to pay attention to what's happening on the deeper level, but it can also turn south if we're not honoring that, right? And get more sad and reactive, I guess. I don't know if I'm explaining that well. Hopefully I am. Let's talk about the full moon that we just had. So on April 6th, we had a full moon that was at 16 degrees of Libra. And the area that influenced for the Cancer horoscope was your home. And so, you know, full moons are a really good time to manifest and work on letting things go. So if we're ingressing towards the full moon, we're working on manifesting things. If we're in the disseminating phase, we're working on letting things go. Today, we're still in that disseminating phase of the full moon. And so this is a really good time to be releasing, letting things go. And, you know, we're in springtime and you're home, you know, it has to do with your home for where the full moon hit. So this might be a good time to do some spring cleaning, let things go in your home. And also there's, you know, an Aries Libra polarity of the signs, our relationships with our family in this area are also highlighted. So if you've been having to work out some of the communication dynamics in the home or some of the way that you cohabitate with another person, that could also be a theme. And then work-life balance is definitely a theme, having the work and the home it's the Capricorn Cancer axis houses, but you in the horoscope have Aries and Libra there, but those were highlighted in the full moon. So work-life balance is a big theme for you for the month of April, because there was a lot of extroverted energy that happened over March, and now you're running out of steam. Like, it's like you need to start pouring it back in stat. So that was highlighted during the full moon. When Mars is passing through a significant area too, it can also bring more opportunity for illness. And Mars in Cancer rules the womb and like kind of the stomach area. And so it's not digestion. Virgo is digestion, but it can be our relationship to trauma, ancestral trauma, and also our relationship, if we're women, to our womb and that area of our body. And so those are things where we could experience inflammation or discomfort, or we're just more sensitive, kind of in that area. So those are things too for the Cancer to kind of watch out for. Mars passing through the first house of the horoscope chart, also that area a lot of times has to do with the head. So headaches are more common when people have Mars passing through this area of the chart as well. So there's a few things, it's like if you're not doing the self-care stuff, you're more prone to the ailments of Mars. And whenever Mars is passing through certain areas of our chart, there's certain things that we're more prone to, certain types of ailments or accidents or conflict. So yeah, those are just kinds of themes for the Cancer horoscope. The other thing that we have going on, so we'll enter Taurus season on the 20th, and then we also that day are going to have a solar eclipse at 29 degrees Aries. And so, this also being in the area of the career, this has a lot to do with you setting intentions and really thinking about what you want to call in when it comes to your career over the next month. But solar eclipses, or the influence is said to last for up to 6 months, so we think more in the long term of a 6-month cycle for you in terms of what you're calling in career wise. And the thing that's interesting about this solar eclipse is it's at the last degree of Aries, which is a critical degree point. So it kicks off eclipse season. It's pretty intense. And then right after that, the sun and the moon move into Taurus, right? So we have kind of this other energy of Taurus where we have an opportunity to set intentions around what we want to manifest in the physical. And so this is a really good time for setting intentions around bigger plans, essentially, and being really mindful with the actions that we're taking towards those plans. And then right after that, Mercury stations retrograde. So we'll have Mercury retrograde in Taurus. I highly recommend getting in front of your taxes before Mercury stations on the 20th. We're already getting kind of close to the shadow period, but tax day I think is the 18th of April. I think some people are getting an extension. So the retrograde's nice for that. Probably it's probably adding to that. And then we have a couple other transits that are happening. When Venus on the 11th enters Gemini, we're going to have a trine between Pluto and Venus. And the area of the chart that's happening for with Cancer is your shared assets and your relationship to investments and banking, and then also that creative energy that I was talking about with Venus passing through the area of the subconscious. There's a lot of deep healing energy here, like in terms of healing any trauma in the subconscious around money or ancestral, kind of trauma, past marriages or relationships where assets were shared, or any shared resources that you currently have with somebody. These are themes around healing things, working things out, letting things go. Yeah, it's a really intense kind of energy, but there should be kind of something moving forward in a way with it. I'm trying to think if there was any other transits that I wanted to bring up. The Mercury retrograde is within an orb of influence of Uranus, and Uranus is the planet that represents sudden change, revolution, surprise, destruction. It's pretty intense. So I'm not really that stoked that Mercury is stationing at 15 degrees so close to Uranus. Uranus is going to be at 17 degrees. So it's not an exact conjunction, but it's close enough in my opinion. So there might be something that happens to a friend or in a friend group that is shocking and sudden that you weren't necessarily anticipating, and having to work through that. Could be good, could be bad. It's Mercury retrograde, so I tend to think it's probably on not the best side, but sometimes that's the surprise is, oh wow, that's actually pretty great. You know, it's a surprise. It's a surprise. Whatever ends up being a surprise to you is how it's going to happen. All right, Cancer, that is your generalized horoscope for the month of April. Happy spring. Good luck. Take good care of yourself. Get lots of downtime and make sure to focus on filling your own cup before you go try filling other people's cups. Always good advice for the Cancer. I'll see you next month.